Could you go more into detail about origin stories and how this impacts how a player will perform and grow in a player's career?
Our players always ask for more stories in player career mode. And when we started thinking about it, we knew like some players like to be a clean slate and make up their own story in their mind. But football has so many famous stories. They have stories like, and I live in Romania right now, and they have, of course, Yanis Hagi, the son of the legendary Hagi. And you know the story of the son trying to follow up in the footsteps. So we want to bring this in as a story. But we also know the famous stories of players being injured, trying to rebuild themselves maybe in other leagues. Like my home team, Frankfurt, has Mario Götze, who played some years in the Netherlands, came back now to Germany and rebuilt his career a bit. And basically what it is, you will see in social media, in messages, how social media reacts, how messages you get will react basically to the background story you have for your player. So an easy example is if you're the son of or daughter of a legend, you will get messages from your parents. Your agent will basically say, hey, your parents are, making a post about how they're proud of you for, like being now in football, following their footsteps. There might be different pressure on you, like what the media is asking of you. Of course, if you're a legendary, the son and daughter of a legendary football, there's a lot of pressure on you. But also, like people might post about how happy they are for you making a comeback after an injury and so on. But again, we also wanted to keep the clean slate for those players who want to really write their own story, so it's depending on them.
So how are you sort of managing that balance between keeping the clean slate but still having these little sort of origin stories in here?
So we have basically, you make a choice in the beginning where you can choose your own story, and one is clean slate. And clean slate is also us expanding how you can build your own story. So basically what you have, you can choose your age, you can choose your stats, you can choose your skills, you can choose your overall in it, just to make it not anymore, like players were giving us the feedback. The only choice they had was starting as a young player with an OVR of, let's say, 60, 70. And now it's like, no, if I want to be a star already and want to write my own story as a star, I can. So that is basically what we brought in, just giving you more choices in what you pick for your clean slate story to really write your own story of who you want to be.
It's also good to finally see women's football added to career mode, but the women's game is so different from the men's due to smaller contracts, budgets and fewer players in FC25 in general. Could you give us some more detail about how it can differentiate from the men's career mode?
So if you look at the women's leagues, there's not many big transfers happening. You have sometimes someone like Mary Earps, doing a big transfer, but they're less likely. A lot of teams try to keep their star players together, so to speak. Because it's also, the finances are different. You cannot do the big transfers. So that is also something we're reflecting in the mode. Basically, you have to look more in keeping your star players. There's more competition for the top stars, while at the same time, a way heavier focus on youth academy. So if you look at women's football again, a lot of teams have 16-year-olds already playing, 17-year-olds already playing, because they're really trying to push more building up the youth. That's something we definitely brought in. And at the same time, also the challenge of, different leagues have different finances. We all know that the US is far ahead from some European leagues right now. Now they're paying players. We know that Barcelona is dominating the game in the women's football. So just these challenges that you might face. So I'm from Frankfurt. I'm an Eintracht Frankfurt fan also of the women. I saw them play against Barcelona last year. And just, the challenge of the difference you still see in style of teams. That's I think something new and fun we can bring to career mode, and especially the challenge of finances and thinking more about how you're building your squad is really interesting.
What are you looking to implement into the game to sort of encourage more players to jump into women's career mode?
So I think in general that we basically made it on par with the men's game, and that it's one universe. So we didn't split it, you can either pick men's career or women's career, but it's one universe. So you will see actually the transfers that are happening in women's career, the title races, and you will see the news about it also in men's career. So now you might be a Chelsea manager, and you might be going I also want to try out now to win the title with Chelsea Women's, for example. So that's something we wanted to make that switch very easy. In Germany right now in the third league, we have Sabrina Wittmann, who's the first female manager of a professional football team in the men's league, and just these transfers happening, between those leagues. I think that will be really exciting basically for our players, to really get the interest of this sounds interesting, I want to just jump over there for a season, try this out, and I think that's really limiting the barrier of entry, so to speak.
Will more icons become playable as the game goes on? And is there a reason there aren't more available from release?
Imagine you would have to pick between 70 icons, even though it sounds exciting at first.
Yeah.
The thing behind it is like how many will you try out immediately? And we want to also fit it with the football calendar. So there might be some big derbies coming up, for example, like let's take Real Madrid against Barcelona, El Clasico. And maybe, like if you bring then in icons from there, like you can try them out. It fits more with the football calendar. So that's the reason behind it. We just want to keep it exciting all through the year. Like also having fans guess and having players guess, like who's the next icon going to be that we're going to bring into the game?
Yeah.
What are big matchups coming? So that's the main reason behind this. Just we want to keep it exciting, want to keep it fresh through the year, and really want you to try out different icons and rotate, and maybe even try out players you normally wouldn't try out. So for example, you might be interested in a player you haven't heard of so much as a fan yourself, and you want to try out.
Youth development is a huge part of career mode. So when will we see more opportunities to play with youth academies in the future?
So right now the focus is still on 25 and just seeing the feedback for it, I have to say. So it really is, like we're really looking forward to just seeing what players like about Youth Academy, about Rush, and about, developing youth players. How will they, like the different options that we have, since we have the option to play to the potential of the player, like trying them out as a 90 OVR, for example, if it's a 90 OVR player, or trying them out with the current OVR. So we are more looking for feedback right now.
Is an online career mode something you've ever considered, and what stopped you from creating it so far?
We are all aware of asks like this. The thing is, as you can see with Women's Career, it needs to be the right moment at the right time. With Women's Career, this year was the right moment, the right time.